Well, hello and welcome to another episode. I could not and would not be able to do Mondays with Mindy without my co-host and co-producer, the gorgeous Christian Brescia.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome back.
Sorry, I'm just blushing at how gorgeous you are.
Well, now I am too.
Today's conversation is with one of the most talented and versatile photographers on the planet, Douglas Friedman. While most renowned photographers hone in on a specialty, Doug moves effortlessly between portraits, interiors, fashion, advertising, and travel, making each appear like it's his only area of expertise. Doug was born and raised in New York City, came west to Los Angeles for college, and worked for a few years in the film industry. After working as director David Fincher's assistant during the filming of his amazing movies, Seven, The Game, and Fight Club.
Wow.
Doug left with his camera and headed to Indonesia. And from there, traveled around the world for the next year and a half, shooting everything he came across, from the Sherpas at the foot of Mount Everest to sharks below the sea near Borneo.
Wow, that's
to
awesome.
all the architectural, vernacular in every port of call along the way. He returned to New York in the late 90s. I mean, like, if that's not enough, right? Wait.
Seriously.
Wait, he becomes even more prolific. In the late 80s, he begins to study photographic technique and theory with an emphasis on architecture and design, but also fashion and portraiture, leading him to become an in-demand portrait photographer for Harper's Bazaar, Vanity Fair, InStyle magazines, while simultaneously shooting covers for Wallpaper, Domino, and Elle Decor.
Wow.
Yeah, really? But wait.
There's
Currently,
more.
between art exhibits, he's had two. Design and construction of his ranch in Marfa, Texas, which is such a spectacular property at the hands of Doug. His monthly architectural digest shoots. Everything you see, most of the covers are Doug of Architectural Digest.
Wow.
He jet sets as much as his high-profile portrait subjects. His creativity is only matched by his ridiculous good looks, and he is truly one of the loveliest, funniest people to be around. I can't wait for everyone to meet and talk with Doug.
Me too. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Douglas Friedman. Welcome, Doug.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hi, Doug. So good to see you. So we start each episode with our trusty Jonathan Adler Secrets Jar and just ask some random questions to get it going.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you reach into the jar? Oh, you do reach into the jar.
Yep.
Here we go.
Oh, I reach into the
There's
jar.
20 questions in there, each pulled at random, so we'll see what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm ready.
How do you get inspired, or who inspires you kind of newly? Like, who are you newly inspired by?
Okay, this is going to sound really odd, but I've recently been inspired by chickens, and that's no joke.
Okay. You're going to
Tell
have
the
to
people.
elaborate.
So during the 3.5 months that I spent by myself in the West Texas desert in a town of 1,700 people, I started a chicken ranch, a chicken farm. Excuse me, I started a chicken farm. I have raised 30 chickens, and they inspire me. They really do. To see something grow from the size of like my fist to this under my care and under my watch, kind of gave me inspiration every single day.
That is amazing.
You're a daddy.
Happy Father's Day to me, right?
Yeah, exactly. A little belated.
In a different way than you've ever been a daddy before.
I've never been a daddy the conventional.
I know. Okay, second question. This I think might be hard for you. What's your favorite place in the world and why?
Gosh, I think my favorite spot is it's here in Marfa, Texas. It's a kind of an easy answer for me. I've had the privilege and the pleasure of traveling to so many places for work, for fun, and this is the place 8 years ago that I fell in love with with a pile of dirt. Literally, I fell in love with 10 acres of dirt, and I continue every day to love this place.
Well, you've turned it into a Shangri-La that I am just jonesing to get to.
Oh, we're going to get you down here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I think this also may be a little bit more challenging. Who knows? Only because you've met the world. Who's the most fascinating person you've met?
Gosh, I think it would have to be it's going to be a tie between Hillary Clinton and Faye Dunaway. They were both, I mean,
Okay.
Hillary Clinton, I only had 10 minutes to shoot 2 portraits, but she is so incredible.
Was this the New York cover? The magazine, New York Magazine cover?
Yes, which was originally shot for Harper's Bazaar.
Oh, okay.
But it was 2 minutes with this woman who, 10 minutes, sorry. She was so remarkably charismatic in a way that you just don't understand on television or radio or the media. In person, I was awestruck by what she had to say and how she said it, and just her energy. And Faye Dunaway was one of the greatest and one of the worst photo shoot experiences of my life. But
okay, so I just have to stop you before you tell the story, and you need to. But I asked Isaac Mizrahi the same question, and it was Faye Dunaway.
It was really?
Yeah.
Well, so there. I mean, I didn't even hesitate, but she was. We were doing it to commemorate I think it was the 25th anniversary of Network or Chinatown, and for Harper's Bazaar again, and she was in hair and makeup for 6 hours. She was throwing hairbrushes. She was throwing the makeup artist out of the room, the hairstylist. I was then in wardrobe with her and the stylist, and I hold up this dress. And I was like, Faye, what about this dress? And she grabs it and she looks at it. She throws it at me and says, you think I want to look like goddamn Joan Crawford? And that's how my relationship, 3 pictures over 5 hours, and it was endless abuse. Like, Friedman, you call yourself a photographer. I shot with People magazine yesterday and the pictures are better than these. It was like endless insults.
Wow.
Unbelievable. She was so manipulative. She was so cruel. And secretly, I loved every minute of it. Telling me how horrible I was for 6 hours. And and then at the end of the day, we're on this last picture, and I'm trying to do something really heroic, like looking up at Faye Dunaway at the Chateau Marmont pool, and she's in this beautiful tuxedo, and she's like, "Raise the camera, Friedman, more light, raise the camera." And I say, "Faye, I really want this to be a heroic picture." And she goes, "But I don't want to see this." And she grabs this part of her neck, and I say, "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that." She goes, "I don't trust you, Friedman. Raise the camera." So I find myself going from on the floor on top of an 8-foot ladder, shooting down on Faye Dunaway with all of the light.
Oh my God.
She's still not happy, and she comes running at me. Her foot catches the cable. The camera falls over and rolls into the swimming pool. And I was like, "Shoot's over, Faye." And then she was like, "I'm sure there's something we could." I was like, "Nope, it's over." And that was it.
Wow.
And I still died on that story.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Who is someone you have yet to shoot that you want to shoot? Who's in your top 3 or 4 people?
I mean, what pops into my mind is President Obama, Michelle Obama, just to kind of, and I say that because I just want to be I just want to bask in the glow of who they are, just for a minute, 30 seconds, just to kind of gaze upon it and see what that feels like.
That'd be awesome.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Oh my God, there's so many, Mindy.
Yes, share a couple, I'm sure.
I think we probably share. I think the ones, the guilty pleasure that I have right now, I think it has to be food oriented. And,
of course.
I had a major kind of thing with fast food yesterday. And that it just,
That's rare for you.
I'm not going to say which fast food chain it was.
Right.
I didn't said anybody, but it was incredible and it was a lot. And that's kind of what you do when you drive across the state of Texas.
Yeah, I bet.
I worked at breakfast was Waffle House. And if you live in New York City, you're not familiar with Waffle House because the nearest one is somewhere in deep Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Right. But if you've been in the South, you're very well aware of what a Waffle House is, and I am.
You know.
Yeah.
Especially late.
So,
yeah.
Let's just say that's my obsession now is the Waffle House because they bring you this waffle that is the size bigger than my head, and they've embossed Waffle House in the waffle. And then you find yourself wanting 2 and more butter. And it's
it's the little things, or the big things, I guess, in this case.
And lastly, from this fabulous jar of ours, among your friends, what are you best known for?
Again, not something I probably want to reveal too much.
Don't.
Well, I'm not. God, I don't know. I think. I think my friends laugh at all. They're so kind to my friends, and they laugh at the things that I say.
Because you're funny, Doug. Because you're funny.
Thank you.
And you are a great storyteller. I do have to say.
I am just a humble chicken farmer from West Texas.
Yeah, right.
Career changed after Faye Dunaway.
Yeah. So basically, Doug, Christian and I started this podcast in the era of COVID because what I had missed is a crucial part of my life, which is being around other creatives. We feed off each other. We inspire each other. We create with each other. And so I just wanted to start gabbing with the creatives that I respect and admire. And so we're going to just do a deep dive in and talk about your creative process, which I know for most people is different or they don't have one. But how would you define it in this moment, here and now, your creative process?
It's been really interesting. I've during this period of COVID, and I know it's been very difficult for most people, and it was challenging for me to stop everything and be still and stay put for 3.5 months alone in the West Texas desert. But I found that I started to create things for a completely different reason than I've ever created anything before. I'm a commercial photographer. So I made that choice, 20 years ago, not to be an art photographer, but to be a commercial photographer. I wanted to make money and have a life that I kind of, dreamed of. And during this period, I didn't work for money. I worked I created just for the sake of creating things, of doing things. And I enlisted friends at ad agencies and creative agencies that were also telling me they love just doing things, just to do it for the sake of doing it, which is a whole other thing. I mean, when there's no paycheck at the end of it, create differently. And the product is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had exhibitions before, I think 2, maybe 3. So did this harken back to those days of just creating for creating's sake, or was there a emotion behind it, or just listen, I need to get busy with myself?
I mean, the exhibitions were, there was an end goal for the exhibition. Was to sell art, was to make money, was to broaden my appeal as a photographer. It was all different. I was even if it was something as simple as, setting a table, for my lunch or my dinner, which is something that I would do. And I would set beautiful tables for myself. I would put down, and that was a creative process because it required, a lot of thought and effort, and then you had to put it away. And then I created a chicken farm, and I enlisted friends, and that was a project that was, it's not your average chicken farm over there. There's something special to it. And, people got involved and helped me and created things for it. And, no one asked to be compensated in any other way except maybe to have a chicken named after them.
Okay, the cutest. I love that. Yes. No, and I relate to that obviously with my farm experience and expertise with the goats.
Yeah.
Yes, I do know. And also, it's the place for me where I legitimately lose track of time. That's why I think I love it so much. Because I'm always very well aware of time and my next project and what I'm doing and all that jazz. Does where you grew up inspire or has added to your aesthetic as a creative? Absolutely. Where you're from?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in New York City on the Upper West Side. 2 incredible parents. I had a great education. New York was an amazing place to grow up. And you had everything at your fingertips. If you wanted to go see art, the greatest museums were there. You explored, everything, the good and the bad. It's a school of hard knocks. It wasn't all easy. you get mugged, like things happen. But I think because I was exposed, and now that I'm thinking, I was exposed to so much growing up in New York and going to this all boys prep school, and I didn't know then how much that experience would follow me into my adulthood and how it would affect who I work with, how I work, people's perceptions. I'm being really honest here, with people's perceptions of me, because like, who's this guy with the mustache and all the tattoos? But there's a certain class of people that are like, well, it's okay because
exactly,
we went to this school and he, and so, and I kind of like, oh my God, I'm totally pulling the wool over their eyes. But, that kind of has informed, where I am now, and good and bad.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it does, because I went to an all-girl private school. So I sort of lead the same way. I'm incredibly underestimated very often, and I don't lead with my education or my travels. And all of a sudden you start talking and they're like, oh, for Pete's sake.
Right.
So I do identify very much with what you just shared. And it's unusual. It's rare.
It's
your upbringing.
And then when you say, like, and when you mention the name of the school, like, that's when a jaw drops. It's like, it's like saying Harvard. You're like, what? Like, and then you're part of this like weird secret. But it's just, anyway, so it hasn't, I mean, that's one side of growing up in New York that's kind of come into my present now. And and now, as I live in the West Texas desert, and in a very small town that, it can't be any more opposite than what New York City is. So I constantly think, I get very, I get nostalgic. I think about, what does it mean for me to be a New Yorker, a New York Jew, living in the West Texas desert. And
it's fantastical is what it is.
People look at me like I would have looked at someone with a cowboy hat and a twang if they kind of stepped off, a subway in New York City. And that's how people see me. Like, some guy at the post office here in town a couple of months ago was like, where you live? I was like, I live in Marfa. He goes, no, you don't. I was like, no, I live here in Marfa. Where are you from? I was like, New York City. He goes, you're one of those people that ruined this place. And I was like, oh my God, like, his perception of me just hearing that.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly
such a shame, because if he knew, I mean, I know, and I'm on so your periphery, how much you cherish and adore and cultivate that piece of property that you've purchased. I mean, every town in America would want you to be a part of their town based on how much you cherish.
It's a small town that's been kind of, it's changed course in the last couple of years. I even think it's kind of a bit insane. During COVID.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's been like, you can't even go to a restaurant. There's just so many, and there's so many people. This was a place where it cultivated, tourists that were interested in art. That's it.
Right.
You came to Marfa because you wanted to see the art. And we had like 10,000 visitors a year. Before COVID, there were 70,000 visitors. Most of them had never heard of Donald Judd or Dan Flavin or John Chamberlain. And so they came to Marfa to, like, get wasted and take selfies. And so that was a layer of kind of interest in this little town, good and bad.
Yeah.
But during COVID, when this place shut down and the tourists went away, and we went back to what this felt like 8 years ago, which was really nice to like bump into someone at the post office and talk for 45 minutes. And then
I love that. Yeah.
A small town, like, it's like Mayberry, or it's this idea of Mayberry. It's kind of that perfect sometimes.
Yeah, no, I echo that as far as Sharon Springs is concerned. Different locale, but very similar in feeling. So talk to me a little bit and share with everybody the trajectory from post-college. You go out to LA, you work in film, you're an assistant, you're around it, and then you decide, I want to know what made you decide to go, and I'm finished, and I'm now going to travel the world.
I graduated with I was going to make documentary films. I happened to start working with a brilliant man called David Fincher on the movie Seven. And I was there with him for a couple of years in Fight Club, The Game. It was a really amazing time to be with so as a young aspiring director, I find myself, working with the greatest director at the moment, the greatest projects of the time, with the greatest freedom that a director could possibly have. And I watched as this brilliant man still struggled to kind of navigate
Yeah.
to get done what he got done. And I was like, if it's so hard for this guy, I can't even imagine how awful it would be for me. So, oh my God. And then I got like, I kind of left working with David with the intention of leaving to travel. I briefly got a job working starting a division for talent management at a production company. And my first meeting was with Vin Diesel. And we
my gosh.
we had lunch, and I went back to the office and I went to my boss and I was like, I don't think he's going to make it. So I didn't have the aptitude for that. And so anyway, so I sold everything I owned. I sold my car, I sold everything. I bought a one-way ticket to Southeast Asia. My brother was living on a small island in Indonesia teaching scuba diving. So a small island, like no electricity, like an ox cart with a generator. It was, dirt floors. It was really painfully, torrentially beautiful. And I spent some time there with him scuba diving. And then I spent almost a year backpacking and taking pictures, but also kind of slowing down. And I came back to New York after kind of getting a little ill. And New York was such a culture shock. I came back to New York.
Yeah.
And
so this is now 90s. What time?
98.
Okay.
98. I came back, had this severe, like really culture shock. Like, oh my God, So I immediately flew back to India and spent another 6 months climbing mountains in the Himalayas and backpacking through Nepal and, sleeping above barns for $1 a night, anticipating that I wanted to recapture what I had learned, on this trip. And this is a time before cell phones and like I had a camera and books and like mini discs and mini disc player and everything that you would have in your phone was this massive thing that I would have to carry up a mountain. It was, I would send telegraphs. I would go to the.
Oh my God. I love that.
From India to my parents so they knew where I was.
Yes.
But when I came back after the first time, I had lost everything I had learned. It was because New York was so aggressive. And so I went back and I wanted to be able to come back to New York a second time, knowing what to expect and how to reintegrate myself back to New York, love it, but also hold on to all the incredible things that I had experienced and learned about myself traveling, solo.
And I have to say the city itself, changed. I mean, being there in, the 80s and early 90s, very different city when you come back in the late 90s, early 2000s. At least it was for me. I mean,
it was so much, a lot of what I think, a lot of the inspiration, what made New York so inspiring, it was, the Upper East Side was so different than the Upper West Side. And then there was Soho, which I wasn't allowed to go to in every neighborhood.
Exactly. I mean,
else.
Yeah. Right.
And, that kind of, it's all of it's become like one great city.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
More homogenous now.
And so, but, I came back after that second trip and I'd never considered being a photographer, but I'd spent my time in Asia and Southeast Asia and Nepal and India traveling, taking pictures. And an ex of mine was very kind and helped me get a job with Gilles Ben Simone. Remember, it was a photo shoot with Bridget Hall for Top Model magazine. And there were like 4 photo assistants, and I was the 5th, and they were shooting 4x5 film. I was so like, oh my God, this is incredible. And so that was my first job as a photo assistant. And then I immediately got a job, and this is so weird, as I was Julia Roberts' like technical advisor on the movie Stepmom, because she was a fashion photographer. So I B&H photo, and I pretended like I was buying expensive cameras. And they taught me at B&H how to load cameras and use everything. And then I went to set to teach Julia Roberts how to do it. And so
amazing.
Then they cast me as one of her assistants for a couple of days. And
yes.
And that's where I think my love of photography started. Or at least then I knew that I could actually make a living as a photographer. I could take pictures and travel and meet people and see things.
But you knew immediately that you had to have known that you have an eye. I mean, there are people who are meant to be behind the camera.
Never thought about it. I mean, it
really
much later. I didn't know what I was seeing or how to, or how to see things, I assisted. I decided to assist. I'm going to assist photographers, travel photographers, fashion photographers, interior photographers, catalog photographers. Like I wanted to assist everyone and learn everything. And I gave myself 4 years. And I didn't look at magazines and I wouldn't look at fashion. I didn't want to be inspired by, I didn't want to think that I was appropriating because, back for Fincher, there was a collection of incredibly brilliant directors that were great appropriators, Mark Romanek and Fincher. They did beautiful work, but they were also inspired by imagery and they got called out. And I didn't want to be called out for being inspired by Terry Richardson's work or somebody else's work. Yeah. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, like well into my past being an assistant, that I was finally I was published enough, I could see my work and I could recognize my work. And then I would, look at like an Annie Leibovitz, photograph and go to do a portrait of someone, Hillary Clinton, whoever, and think, I want to do an Annie Leibovitz type of picture. And I couldn't do it. It would always look like my picture.
Thank God.
And that's why
and I love Annie, but right? I mean, I love your photography.
That's how that's when I was like, oh, I've got, like, that must be my eye.
Yeah, you've got an aesthetic.
Like, no matter, I can't copy someone else's work because it's never, like, I could put a hard flash on a small camera and take a picture of someone against a white wall, and it's not going to look like Terry Richardson's work. And that's when I realized that it's something else. It was something. It wasn't the tool. It wasn't the thing. It was It was these. It was there. It was here. It was something completely different that was involved in the process.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I'm going to take a little break and give you guys a chance to catch your breath. Take a little drink if you need to, just to remind all of our listeners and our viewers that if you like what you're seeing or hearing, head to mondayswithmindy.com. We will have all the show notes and more information about Douglas that you can find some of his work there, some of the things that he's working on. We might even be able to get some pictures of the chickens to put up on the site for you. And just as a reminder, in general, if you are watching us on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing. Click the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified whenever we release a new episode, which is every Monday at 11 a.m. And like I said, if you want to learn more about our guest Douglas, he will have information on the website. He's also our honorary sponsor for this week's episode. His new book, which is called Cooking in Marfa. Welcome. We've been expecting you. It's pretty amazing. He shot some incredible photographs for that book. We will have that on the website as well, so you can click and order it on Amazon if you'd like to get a copy for yourself.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
I mean, did you ever think you'd be a sponsor? Come on.
Oh, that's incredible. Wow. I'm glad to do that.
When did you finally absorb that you had a certain level of success and a certain you are desired and wanted by not only people who want you to take their picture, but obviously your work in interiors is spectacular. I mean, I'm at a loss for words, which I'm rarely at a loss for words. See, there I am. Beautiful men, gorgeous. When did it get into you? And don't laugh at me, goddammit. On a cellular level, that it's like, oh no, I am Douglas Friedman.
I don't know if, I mean, do you ever just feel kind of weirdly fraudulent? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been fooling them all these years.
Present.
I know, I'm aware. I know I take a good picture. I'm not I know I've worked really, really, really hard. I love what I do. I know that the product that I know that's good. I know that there's a nice kind of equation of what I do and how I talk and equals something that people want. I like to joke, like I did before, that I'm just a humble chicken farmer from West Texas, but I moved to West Texas. I moved to the middle of nowhere, and I have chickens at a junkyard down the road, and I need that. I need that because I think that this shutdown came at a really important time for me because I was getting so tired, and I thought that my work was suffering and working so much that I wasn't even able to kind of keep up with the post-production and the pre-production, and it was no longer that enjoyable. It was like a slog, and my eyes were literally getting tired. I didn't know what I was seeing. I was questioning
Wow.
the color of my work, the quality of my work, the look of my work. And so to slow down and and it's kind of disappear from everything and have a moment to just and I love it. I look back with nostalgia and I wish I wish I could go back to the 3 months. I'll never have that 3.5 months again. But again, like coming back from India the second time, I want to move forward and not work every single day, and build in time to enjoy like the simpler things, a walk, like things that I would never thought I wanted to do 10 years ago.
Right.
Right.
That now.
Do you say no?
I'm starting to.
Interesting. Yeah. Because when we met, I mean, a little bit of a kindred spirit in that you not only love what you do, but you just are ready to go at any moment. There's that gypsy quality that I think a lot of creatives have, that you embrace it, but at some point you do have to sort of, and an age thing too, you realize there's more than this.
There's more than this.
Even though it feeds your pocketbook, your feelings of success and self-worth and all that. But you have never been someone who strikes me as I am what I do, which I love about you, because I think a lot of artists in your milieu feel that way. It's like, I am what I do. It's all of me. It's all there is to me. You do not present that way to me at all, which I love that about you.
There's so much to do.
True.
I mean, there's so much to do and experience and enjoy and understand and contemplate and discover. And when I drove to Marfa yesterday from Austin, Texas, and I had taken the road, that was 6 hours and 15 minutes, or there was other road that went way out of the way, but it was a 2-lane blacktop, and it went like through this incredible reservoir on the border with Mexico, and it took 9 hours, and that's the road I chose.
Wow.
Nice.
3 hours longer. Yeah. And guess what? Like, it was like my mind was so activated. I'd never seen, 9 hours on a 2-lane blacktop. It's incredible.
Whoosh.
And nobody else except the incredible weirdos that you meet like at the gas station.
I can only imagine. I can't even. Yeah, it's like something out of Central Casting, I'm sure.
Better. It's like they're so interesting. They're so like I'm out of Central Casting. Like I'm the background in the story. Like they're the stars. Those people that
Are you ever could you ever be lulled back into filmmaking? Is there something in your heart? Because I think I would love to be directed by you.
I've started directing. I've started directing small clips for like the Golden Globes, for Instagram, and I've been doing more, and people have been asking for more, and and I found that I have some I have some good chops for some improv and comedy, which is so strange because I'm so rigid and ridiculously specific about every little thing
when you're working,
and how so I'm trying to do more of that.
Good.
It's nice to kind of step away from a set of tools and and kind of embrace a new way of creating images. Like I don't necessarily have to be touching the camera to be the creator. Stepping back and working with someone else, the DP, and the scripts, and saying what about and then knowing what we want, and then discussing and communicating how to make it better. But it's a really, like, as a photographer, you work alone. At least the type of photography I do, it's me and my assistant and a designer, and most of the time, which has served me really well. But I actually have enjoyed the experiences where I'm in charge of 25 people.
Yes, you're a helmsman. Absolutely.
And I kind of did good at it. So
I believe it.
Your question, I'm going to do some more.
Okay, good. That excites me. Okay, so now I'm tacking a little bit. when you walk into a no, because I don't know how to ask this without it sounding so like fangirly. How do you walk into a room and know how to photograph it the way that you do?
But that's
Yes, there are beautiful rooms that I can walk into, but if I were to take a picture of it, it would not look, and it wouldn't have the emotion or elicit the emotion that yours do.
I mean, in the beginning, when I didn't know what my eye what saw or was, I would walk in and I would maybe I'd be a little insecure. Maybe I'll try from that side, or I'll go over there. Maybe I should be a little lower. And I don't do that anymore. Now I walk in and I'm like, oh, that's it. So
wow.
I guess I've learned to trust, and I think that only comes with age and instinct and the school of hard knocks, Mindy. It's I trust my judgment now when it comes to a lot of things, when it comes to people, when it comes to work, when it comes to things I photograph. And I kind of know at 47 what I like and how I want to see it. And that's what people, I think that's what, people hire me for, is that confidence is, and it's not overconfidence. I don't want you to think that I'm like this arrogant prick and it's like my way.
I don't, and I never would.
But I go and, but I'm open to suggestion. Someone's like, oh, if we tried it from here. And I was like, oh, I would never, but that's really great.
Well, I have to say your not your latest photographs, but this series that you just did on this boat.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous.
Jesus Christmas. Douglas Friedman. I mean, I didn't even bore you out of my loins, but I was so proud. I mean, this I mean, just what I saw, which was obviously not all of it or what's going to be published, but maybe. But again, it would be a vessel I would go upon. I would be awed and inspired and overcome and probably have a little bit of a weep at the beauty. But you were able to capture these things that I would have walked right by or glanced over. So it's so stunning.
Again, this is one of those.
What ship was it? What kind of?
It was a 1929 steamship that belonged to a Jewish robber baron in San Francisco, and it's been sitting derelict for decades. And some dear friends of mine in England, they took possession of it 5 years ago. They took down. They also took a derelict shipyard in, I think, Liverpool or somewhere, and they used all of the old wood to. They spent 5 years restoring this ship to an even more incredible. There's no plastic.
I love these people, by the way. Whoever they are, I love them already.
No electronics. You don't see anything that might, even all the radar equipment is hidden in those smokestacks. It's really spectacular. Kind, wonderful, lovely people that did it justice. But this was a situation where the magazine I was working with, Cabana, which is a beautiful magazine, they have a very specific and different point of view than I'm used to. They honestly, they would have been happy if I took 10 pages of photographs of just the rope and the cleat. That would have been. So I approached the assignment thinking, okay, well, it's not the big shot every time. Go in for the details. Go in tight. Thing that you would never have think to. And I worked with an incredible editor and friend, Gianluca Longo, and and it was his voice. What about this? Or maybe you should try. And it's not the easiest thing to do to ask or direct a photographer that can be stubborn. But we worked well together, and I'm so proud of those pictures because it feels like a departure from what I would normally do or see, like the food photography in the book.
Yeah.
It's not what I normally do now, but I loved doing it. And, it's such a great.
They're beautiful, beautiful photos. And it really does tell the story of Marfa in such a beautiful way of people who've never been there. Yeah. It's stunning. So are you I can only imagine. So are you ready to hit the gas again? I mean, are people ready for photo shoots and back to normalness, quote unquote, or what's the deal in your area of the industry?
I've hit the gas. I've been working. Texas opened,
Mm-hmm.
some before, and so I did a shoot here in Texas for InStyle magazine, but it was just me. They sent everything. I did a shoot, and then I moved on to Austin, and I did a shoot there in a home, and you kind of go with the new directive.
I was going to ask you, what are the changes that you've had to make?
It's like you really streamline the crew. It's only the necessary people. You kind of gently ask where people have been, so your own way of kind of contact tracing, if you will.
Yeah.
And masks, and masks for me is you're communicating something to everyone around you that you've had loss in your life, that you respect other people's existence, health, and so I wear my mask everywhere.
Yeah.
Even when I don't have to, but I do, because I want people to know that which can be challenging.
Bravo.
in a West Texas, fairly conservative.
I'm sure.
I wear the mask, and it becomes very political that you wear a mask.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, that's become part of it. But yeah, I'm working. I've been on airplanes, and I've had incredible experiences on planes. Thank you, JetBlue, for an incredible crew. I mean, the cleanest plane I've ever been on, and even Alaska Airlines. Everyone has been so careful about where you sit, who's around you, and even like the flight attendants. Two of them said to me on different flights, the gist was, we've got to be on this thing every day. We don't want to get sick, so we make sure it's clean.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
Continue to be selfish, everyone that works in the air, because it keeps us safe. And it's been nice. It's been nice to kind of to slowly get back into it.
Yeah. And
I will continue to work, and until I am told that I can't, or it just doesn't feel right. We're all responsible. I don't think that it's possible to just stop everything forever until, like, my parents are like, you shouldn't be working. I was like, but I can't. I, like you, mom and dad, I can't sit in the house and order ingredients and go in the yard or go to the beach with the dogs. They can't. You don't have to. They don't have to go to work to survive. I kind of have to survive. And
yeah, I feel that way as well. I simply adore you. Thank you for joining us on Mondays with Mindy.
I hate saying goodbye.
I feel the same way, but till soon, I always say, because I will squeeze your person very soon.
Hopefully.
You're such a gift. You inspire me every picture that you take. Thank you. Forevermore. Adore you.
For this. It was so fun. This was so nice. It was great meeting you and seeing you, Mindy.
Thank you for joining us. This is pretty spectacular, I have to say. I mean, the photos are pretty amazing as in they are, but now, like, seeing the man.
Yeah, he's pretty spectacular too. I know. It's the art or Doug.
Yeah. So much.
And I have to say, Doug, one of my clients who's a pretty big deal in interiors and does a lot of design, and I help her with all of her technical wheres and woes and all that stuff. She regularly posts images on her Instagram that she's inspired by. And when I was looking through your Instagram, I saw several that you had taken that she has, on her own accord, shown to others as inspiration. So kind of small world, but it's kind of amazing, I thought.
She's got great taste.
She does.
Whoever this is, I love her.
Well, thank you again for joining us. It was such a pleasure having you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Douglas Friedman.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, Mindy, that was a very interesting conversation. What did you say?
Yeah, he's an incredible, incredible artist, truly.
I mean, you could even tell just his aesthetic by the room surrounding him and how he appeared and his presence on the camera. I mean, it was very visually appealing, to say the least.
Yeah. Well, the fact that two of his best friends are, Kevin Sharkey and Martha Stewart, right? He pays attention to detail. Yeah. He's as much into that for himself as the pictures he takes.
Yeah. I mean, it's stunning stuff. I hope our listeners and our viewers check him out on mondayswithmindy.com. Again, you can subscribe on every major podcast network there if you'd like to listen to us regularly. If you prefer to watch us, go to YouTube. We are on youtube.com as well. And there's a quick link on mondayswithmindy.com. We will also have information about his new book, which is, again, called Cooking in Marfa. Welcome. We've been expecting you. It's newly released. It has some incredible photographs. I would also encourage our guests and our listeners to take a look at his Instagram, because it's truly awe-inspiring. And I mean,
agreed.
I don't think he really patted himself enough on the back to talk about how brilliantly talented he is and how special that eye is that he is able to capture things with. So thank you for introducing him to me and to all of our listeners and viewers. And we will look forward to talking with our next guest next week. So once again, signing off, telling everyone we will see you next week. Thanks again for joining us. Have a good one.